Welcome to, well, I think it's 1598. You thought Leon Blevins was going to show up and do an interview with someone today, but here I am, Don Juan de Oñate, famous person from the central Mexico, in some cases royal ancestry. He and his family found their way into this area, the Pass of the North, ended up around Santa Fe and Espanola. So today I have with me someone that is involved in something called First Thanksgiving Reenactment, and this year it is being held in San Elizario. I was involved in this from the very early days when it began to be portrayed here, a reenactment in El Paso, Texas, with a man that some of you know well, Hector Serrano. Today I have with me Joe Estala. Is that right?
Yes.
Joe, glad to have you. A hand
Glad to be
of friendship. Okay. So you're involved in this year's. I started with them when they were down at the Chamazal.
Yes.
From the very beginning. Sheldon Hall, a businessman here, helped get this going, and Hector Serrano put something together. I wasn't in it for the first 3 years or so, and then he asked me to participate. So I participated. You can see some pictures here down there, a newspaper article. At one time, I directed the program from 2002, 3, and 4. And then you can see I was at the dedication of the Oñate statue in front of the airport with John Hauser, the sculptor there, and I was dancing and performing for some of these. I love it. It's wonderful. Now tell me about your involvement in this.
Well, I was recently asked by the El Paso Mission Trail Association if I would be interested in taking this project forward. It had gone through some transition.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Pereira from UTEP did it the previous years, and he moved on. He left El Paso, and so now they needed a new director. And they called me because I have some experience. I was involved with Viva El Paso in the past as music director, and recently I've been the chorus master for El Paso Opera.
Wow.
Yes. And of
You're
course,
my kind of guy.
yeah, so I guess I'm kind of the person who you want to ask, because it's hard for me to say no.
Okay.
But my primary job is I'm the choir director at Montwood High School. I've been there for 16 years.
Oh my goodness.
And what was kind of interesting is when I presented the project to my students, I asked them, when did the first Thanksgiving occur? And of course they were like, well, with the Pilgrims and the Mayflower. And I told them, do you realize that the first Thanksgiving occurred decades before? And I told them, right in our backyard, and I asked them, do you all know where the Licon Dairy is? And they're like, yeah, we go there all the time. And I said, do you know where the Cougar Park is? And I said, well, that whole area is where the first Thanksgiving, somewhere around there was where the first Thanksgiving occurred. Right. And their eyes lit up. And it amazed me because when I was a high school student, I never knew that history existed there. You know, and to be taught what occurred right in my backyard. I grew up in Socorro off of Buford Road. What was happening, what had happened in my backyard. Right. I feel it is my duty as an artist and as a citizen of El Paso to make sure that this history gets passed on. Right. And so I really have enjoyed taking on this project. It's been a little challenge, but it's been fun.
Well, I have the same reaction from my students. Mm-hmm. And when I was directing it, I took a bunch of my students down there for extra credit, mm-hmm. service points, community service points. And many of them said, gosh, I've never been down here before. I didn't know about this. Wow. Never been to San Elizario. Some had been to Esaleta and to the mission that far down, but maybe not to Socorro or especially down to San Elizario. And so we love that kind of work. Now this is a signed, it's an autographed print from Jose Cisneros. And it is an image of Don Juan de Oñate. Mm-hmm. Now, very stylized image of mm-hmm. Jose's work. And then John Hauser down here, these were this one was especially controversial about the Oñate statue, because Oñate had a reputation for being a brutal taskmaster over the natives that were here. Mm-hmm. And when they disobeyed, he would have a foot cut off or something. So that story was told so much. So there were times that were demonstrators there in 1998 when it was at Cougar Park. Mm-hmm. And then at the statue dedication, there were people out there actually with demonstration signs opposing us celebrating. Now, I've told them this in my classes at these demonstrations. Maybe we should not call this a celebration, but a commemoration.
Yes.
Remember our history. There's nothing wrong with remembering our history, the good parts and the bad parts. How do you deal with that?
I think it's very important to recognize both sides, because there were things that the Spaniards brought to the Native Americans, and my family, within my family, my wife's family, they're part Native American and Spaniard.
Right.
And that's what created the mestizo. And if you ask a lot of our relatives, they're all mestizo. We're Mexican now. And I think it's real important that we recognize and show respect to both sides.
Right.
And it becomes difficult because you'll at some point you're going to offend somebody.
Oh yeah.
But what I found is to respect each other's cultures and acknowledge, because in everything, whenever there's change to a culture, to a society, there's going to be anxiety, there's going to be anger, and even now, as we get ready to elect a new president, there's within our own country there's nerves, there's anxiety, there's hatred, and now can you imagine a whole different people coming into to the native lands and saying, now we are Spaniards and we're coming here? Of course, there was going to be controversy.
Oh my goodness! Well, Hector Serrano started this, of course. Good friend of mine, taught at community college for many years. And he took a leave from doing this program, First Thanksgiving Reenactment, because of what he was doing with Viva El Paso and Shakespeare on the Rocks and all of those kind of things. And I remember that 2005, now Mary Davis, a woman from the Mission Valley area, she did a lot of the technical stuff, and I did the acting and directing and got my students involved in it. For 2002, 3, and 4. Hector came back in 2005. I really wish I'd still been doing it in 2005, because that year, someone from the Sumo tribe and the, what was another one? Manso and Sumas, I believe. They came and read a statement of reconciliation, because for years, the natives here did not want to have anything to do with these celebrations because of what happened to them and the loss of their lands. But finally, and I have a copy of what they said, and tears were really running down my cheek as I was up there on the stage. I was still participating, but I wasn't Don Juan in that one, Don Juan Duñate. And I was thinking about how they had been so mistreated all these years. I could understand why they wouldn't want to be a part of this program down there. And finally, these fellows showed up and they said, it's time for reconciliation. I love that aspect of it. Okay.
And that's probably one of the most powerful things to do, because if you can forgive, or if you can say, we forgive you for what you've done to us, you can move on. It's kind of like, I saw a story where a woman, she forgave the murderer of her daughter, the man who murdered her daughter.
Right.
And she said, I can't move on unless I let this go.
Exactly.
And I think that's where we're starting to reach that point now. I'm grateful for people like you, like Mr. Serrano, who started this and who have brought this story to us now, and who have kept it alive. And now, I feel like now we're moving on. It's kind of the changing of the guard.
And you're going to leave it to the next generation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
And
well, tell me about the music and the theatrics of what you're now doing with this.
Okay.
Let's talk. No, we're going to talk about the past now. Let's talk about it this season.
Great.
How is it?
Okay. Well, this is the poster of the event. So if you go around and you go around town and you see these, this has all the information.
Okay.
And if you go online to visit elpasomissiontrail.com, you can find ticket prices and locations and all these other things on there.
Now the reenactment is free, though, isn't it?
Yes, the reenactment is free.
Okay, tell us the date and the time for the reenactment, and then tell us the other things that they might want to pay for.
The reenactment will be at 4 p.m. April 30th.
Okay.
It's a Saturday, and at 4 p.m. we'll start the reenactment. My students at Montwood are doing the reenactment. Now, I looked at the script. They gave me several scripts that they had in the past, and when I looked at the script, there were different ones. So I was like, what am I going to use, and how am I going to change this? And then there was DVDs of previous reenactments, and what I saw is there was a lack of in the last couple of productions that I had seen, a lack of interaction and actual dialogue between the characters. It almost seemed like a pantomime. And so you couldn't get a connection to the character. So what I did is I took some of the lines and I actually gave them to some of the characters. And so you'll find Don Juan de Oñate actually speaking rather than a recording.
Right.
And then my favorite thing is I'm also a composer. So I've written several original pieces that will go with each of the changing scenes. For example, in the beginning, when the Spaniards come in, they'll be talking about, you know, claiming the land for Spain and in search of gold, and it's really, I have all my men singing it, and it's a really neat song. I have another song where Doña Eufemia, who was one of the when the Spaniards were finally tired and they were ready to throw in the towel,
right,
she kind of rallied the troops, and she's like, "We can do this. We'll survive." And she sings, and she goes off to the side and she sings a prayer to God, and she's like, "God, these are your people here. You're the same God who split the sea. And now we, your people, are calling to you on earth. If you could send us a blessing." And that's when there was this miraculous shower, and it rained on the people, and they were rejuvenated. And shortly after, they meet the Native Americans. And I've tied in some Native American folk tunes. And when the actual exchange between the Spaniards and the Native Americans occurs, they teach each other the song. And that's where the first Thanksgiving occurs, and it's been so much fun. The end, I think, here's my little twist that I throw in. When Don Juan is at the dinner table, he speaks, and I gave him a song. And every single one of us has something in our core of who we are, and as a leader, it's scary. If you would imagine what Don Juan was thinking when he came in. He's responsible for all these people.
Oh, yeah.
And to come into a place that you don't know, and people sick, people die, you know, and there must be like some guilt. And he asks God, you know, I'm coming here for my country and to spread, because they were trying to, you know, the building of the missions and
right,
spread Christianity.
They wanted to Christianize the Indians,
yes,
the natives. Philip II wanted the
yes,
land
sir,
under the monarchy. Yeah.
And so he asks God for forgiveness. If I have offended you, forgive me. And that's one of the songs that he sings.
Now, no, the acoustics in it aren't here real great. Would you like to vocalize any of this at all for us?
I'll sing some of the zarzuela stuff for you.
Okay.
For the
Maybe not that song, but just give us a little bit of your voice, okay?
Okay. Well, can I share what the zarzuela in the evening is going to be?
Yeah. That's part of the evening's program, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So the first part is just the reenactment, and my students are part of that.
Okay.
Now the second part of the evening is a fundraiser for the Mission Trail Association,
right,
and this is really exciting because we are going into the zarzuela, and what zarzuela is it's an art form that was brought from Spain. Plácido Domingo, great opera singer, has been one of the torchbearers for this
right,
the style of music, and what it is it started in the Baroque period, and stylistically in the Baroque period it carried all those traits of the Baroque period. The subjects were like of mythological gods, you know, Hercules, and so Spanish zarzuela of this time was trying to do that. Then you get into the classical period. Zarzuela composers or Spanish composers didn't want to do zarzuela because the music that was popular was Italian opera. So vocal music went to the Italian opera.
Okay.
Then zarzuela had another expansion in the Romantic period, and that's where you had major zarzuela, where it was about topics that you'd find on a novela.
And it's very popular here in El Paso.
Yes, sir. And in the 90s, there used to be a festival that Dr. Hugh Carden at UTEP used to was in charge of, and for many, many years they did zarzuela, and from then on it got passed to Dr. Victor Chacon, and it was amazing what was happening with zarzuela. Eventually it tapered off, you know, the productions stopped, and so there were a few people who were coming together, and they said, let's try to rejuvenate zarzuela.
Well, people change. They get older,
yes,
they go here and there,
yes,
and it affects the performances.
And what's important is that we pass on this thing about our culture, because in Latino culture here in El Paso, you talk about music, and the first thing they want to talk about is mariachi or just the typical, and that's great music, folklorico, it's great music, but there's more to it. When I talk to students about, there's other Spanish composers, obradors,
you put more of a story into zarzuela than you do in some of these other things, a ranchero or mariachi.
Yes, and it's long. Some of these zarzuelas can be 45 minutes. Some of them can be 2-3 hours long. And so what we're doing is there are 4 singers, Cynthia Hill, Steven Avila, Liliana Labrado, and Roger Herrera. And they're all educators, but also professional opera singers. They've sung with the El Paso Opera, sung in various places. And they'll be doing different selections from different zarzuelas from all those periods. Oh, wow. And one would sound like, for example, from Taberno del Puerto, No Puede Ser. let me try to warm up the vocal cords here.
Go ahead.
No puede ser, esa mujer es buena. No puede ser una mujer malvada. En su mirar como una luz singular he visto que esa mujer es una desventurada. No puede ser una vulgar sirena quien envenenó las horas de mi vida. No puede ser porque no sé vivir, porque no sé callar, porque no sé vivir.
Bravo, bravo. This is a first for Perspectives El Paso. I love it. Okay. Now we'll have to do a little check on the sound there, that microphone didn't collapse completely. But that's very good. So that's the kind of thing we can hear. Male and female voices.
There'll be a mezzo-soprano, soprano, a baritone, and a tenor.
That's wonderful. Now, when Hector Serrano did the first Thanksgiving down in Cougar Park and in San Eli, I don't remember that he had a lot of dance. But he did have some flamenco dancing, yes, and things like that. But so far as getting some of the members of the group that were with Oñate, I don't remember them
performing.
But when I was directing it, I got them to dance while they were getting ready to have the party. It was a party scene, and I had them dancing, and some of them were surprised at that. And
what I've found is that now the best way to educate and to make, for example, when you're teaching, I don't know, a core subject in class, and they add music to it and dance, all of a sudden the students will remember it and retain it because of what they saw. So if I can connect music, and then of course, people will say, oh, well, that didn't occur in 1598, people wouldn't stop and sing. Well, if you look at one of the greatest movies, The 10 Commandments by Cecil B. DeMille, you would see that all that has been overdone, and those things didn't occur. But we'll remember those scenes because of the music, because of the scenery, and so I'm telling a story and I'm using music to tell the story. And if there's someone in the audience who will remember the story because of the songs and how then I've done my job.
I'm glad you brought that up, because for many, many, many years, now my background was in political science, history, but also speech and drama, things like that. And for many years, I have danced for students in my class, and I've played music for them. Now, this past a couple of days ago, I played "We Shall Overcome," the civil rights song of the 60s. Now, I did not dance for that one, but there have been some others that I actually have folders set up with what music I'm going to play that fits the topic I'm on. And they remember that. I come across some of my students in future years, and they'll say, oh, I'll never forget when you came in and you did this dance for us. And then I say, yes, but what was the subject I was on? Now, in this case of, say, "We Shall Overcome," I didn't dance, but I played that song, and I hope they will remember that's a civil rights song. My students, 5 classes this week, none of them had heard that song.
Wow.
It's a different generation.
And it's a shame, because now I find that education is so focused in trying to fix standardized testing and how do we raise our test scores. And I think if we could let the kids be creative a little bit more, let them sing, let them dance, let them move. One of the biggest things that I work on, I give workshops in various school districts, and the biggest thing is what we're doing is differentiating instruction, because not all learners learn the same.
Right.
And in my classroom, in my choir classroom, I will attack all 5 senses within 5 to 10 minutes. Whether you're a visual learner, auditory, kinesthetic, whatever type of learner you are, I'm going to throw everything at you, and kids will be like, okay, let's do this, or and I think that's what we need to do. A lot of studies, oh, kids have, this student is a special needs learner. Sometimes we have special needs teachers.
Oh yeah, right.
and we need to break ourselves out of the box. And it's not to insult teachers, but it's sometimes we see that student and we're like, how am I going to crack this case? And that's exactly what they are. Each student is a different case, and you can't teach them the same. If you try to teach them the same, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, right.
And my hope is that when I teach this lesson of the first Thanksgiving to a huge audience, I want to try to attack all the senses: visual, auditory, movement through the dance. And if I can do that, those learners within because we all continue to learn, regardless of what age we're at, we continue to learn.
Right.
And that's my job but except my classroom has expanded from my 60 kids in one class to however many people are going to be on that audience on Saturday. And so that was my goal, is not just to create just a play where the kids are going to sing and dance. It's to teach a lesson through music and through the script and through history.
Well, when Sylvia Barone called and asked me if I could have you on, she said, can you please wear one of your outfits, because she'd seen me perform before. The other day, a professor in the computer field, and he sees me passing his office regularly, and I'm dressed as different characters, and he wants to stop and talk, and he asked me. And a couple of days ago, he said, Blevins, every time I stop and talk to you, I learn something. I said, thank you, that's a high compliment. I'm a hallway teacher. We should be teaching wherever we are and informing people wherever we are. That's the nature of this program, Perspectives El Paso. We want people to be informed and know some things are going on. Not just calendar of upcoming events, but the nature of this, because this now is an ongoing performance and helps people to learn about their history and their culture.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad that you got into it. Any highlights of you directing this at this point? Some of the characters you've been working with, some of your students, and how you've seen them grow?
A couple of special moments. My youngest daughter, she's going to be playing the role of Doña Eufemia.
Okay.
And she, when she was much younger, she was very shy, and she couldn't break out of her shell.
Okay.
And I would say in this last year, she's finally done it, and she has a solo. She's singing. And I told her, Melanie, if you're going to do this, you got to sell it. You're rallying the troops. And so she went and she was like, Dad, I have my lines learned. And at rehearsal 3 days ago, she came in and she is doing her thing, and it's big. And I was like, yeah, that's my baby.
Now, what is her name?
Melanie Estala.
Melanie.
She's a senior at Montwood High School. And it's great just watching her bloom. I have another student, Daniel Lugo. He is a tenor. He just got accepted to the Boston Conservatory of Music.
Oh my goodness!
It was a $26,000 scholarship, yearly scholarship. Amazing talent that he has a bright future.
Yeah.
And what was neat to watch him is how he started to take the role of Don Juan. And I told him, when you take this, when you look at Don Juan, I want you to think about, how did he walk? How did he move? And watching him develop this character. And today he did the speech with the claiming of the land. Okay. And we were working on that, and I can see his brain processing things, processing information, and it's cool to watch the synthesis of it, and now what's happening with him, and those are some of the highlights, and to see some of these kids in my class who are really shy, all of a sudden I tell them, create a character. You're this person, you're that person, you're dying of hunger, you're dying of thirst, and to watch them start to evolve as little actors and actresses, because not all of them have acted on stage before, and so that's what's really great to watch.
Well, Hector Serrano took a bunch of young people, on federal money that didn't know how to sing, dance, or act, and he had to teach them a lot of times to even get them ready for Viva El Paso. as it developed. Just yesterday, my sister-in-law, Zan Broom, who's visiting with us this week, I'm showing her pictures about me as different characters. I've done over 100 characters since 1970 when I was teaching at Texas Tech. And she said to me, "You should have been an actor." And my wife said, "Zan, he is an actor." I said, "Yes, I just don't act on a movie screen or on the big stage in New York or anything like that. But I'm always putting on an act in my class because I want to not just entertain, but to keep their attention and inform them and to try to get them engaged in what's going on in the class and something about living history and government and political science." Well, we have about 3 minutes to go, and you gave us a website for contacting. And do they need to pre-buy tickets for the evenings, or they get tickets down there? How does that work?
I believe they can get some there. But there are a limited number of tickets, so if they do plan on attending, I would suggest that they go on the website and make sure they secure their spot.
Right.
But like I said, it's going to be a great evening of music. These 4 singers are incredible, and it's really exciting because El Paso doesn't realize the talent that we have.
Oh, I know.
In the corners of this city, and when I finished working Carmen for the El Paso Opera.
Okay.
And the chorus that I hired were professional singers, and some maybe there were a few from UTEP. And the director for El Paso Opera said, "I didn't know this sound could be possible in El Paso." And I told him this sound and many, many more sounds. We have many talented individuals from all genres, from orchestra, from band to choir, and it's great that we get to utilize all these talents and not have to go hire from New York or from other cities, because that talent is here in El Paso.
Well, and many of them, they need to start somewhere.
Yes.
A starting point. Maybe they're like your daughter, shy at first. When I was teaching at West Texas State University, I got my wife and all 3 of our children involved in the outdoor musical drama Texas. And that was a beginning point for at least our daughter, because she went on and got an education in the field and teaching and performing in churches and on the stage. And so just a little starting point. You don't know what they might start out as and where they can go with those talents.
And it's funny because a student just asked me today, or 2 days ago, I was playing something on the piano and singing something, and the kid asked me, "Sir, why teach? Why did you teach when you could have been singing somewhere around the world?" And I told him I've thought of that also, but had I not been a teacher, had I not been in that classroom at Montwood, all those students that I've had who have gone on to sing, I have students that are singing in New York and San Francisco, in Germany, I would have never been able to touch their lives. 2 kids were basketball players, and 1 kid was like, "Well, I got cut from the team, sir." And I told him, "Well, I can hear your voice right now, and you're a tenor, and you're going to sing for a career." And he graduated from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and now he sings opera professionally. And that is why I chose to stay in El Paso, and several other singers in El Paso have stayed to pass on that craft, and we're watching amazing things happen. And like you said, it's a starting point, and these people are going off and doing, these students are going off and doing amazing things.
Well, Joe, a second bravo to Joe Estala.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us and for entertaining us, informing us, and we want to have a good turnout at this event.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you for watching. Oh, I'm really not Don Juan Del Gnadi. Now I'm back to Professor Leon Blevins, Professor of Government at El Paso Community College.